Let's do this Joni Ernst thing, because we were talking about the trouble that what was that congressman from Nebraska had?
Mike Flood.
Mike Flood had in a district where he won 60 to 40%.
Now, the proof will be in the pudding, and I'm sure I will understand everything that's happening.
That is his response to like whether you're going to see millions of people booted off of Medicaid, booted off of food stamps, and denied services across the board, whether people are going to get their, you got green provisions that are going to be rolled back, et cetera, et cetera. Joni Ernst, she's up for re-election, and she was so scared about a primary that her one thing, her one sort of like pet issue is protecting women in the armed services.
And just she is a survivor of sexual assault. So she has broken with, on occasion, the Republicans in their, hatred of women. And it was a question as to whether or not she would support Pete Hegseth's nomination for Secretary of Defense, because he has a police report that was filed and credible accusations of severe sexual assault. And she ended up doing it anyway, because at the time, Elon Musk was like riding high, quite literally. And he was threatening a primary challenge against her. Basically, it's like, I will kill your career if you end up if you go against the president here. But now she's in a bit of a different situation, right?
Because her own constituents in Iowa are like, what's going on with these Medicaid cuts?
So when you are arguing about illegals that are receiving Medicaid benefits, 1.4 million.
Pause it for a second. Now this lie keeps coming up. There are 1.4 million undocumented immigrants who are getting health care under 16 states that have programs to provide health care for them. Has nothing to do with Medicaid. They are not on Medicaid. Medicaid does not allow undocumented immigrants to be on the program. They use this lie, and then they're going to follow it up with 4.5 million able-bodied men who are just getting Medicaid for the fun of it. In addition to those numbers being completely off, you still are 3 or 4 or 5 or 7 million shy of what this bill has been scored to do. So they just use the undocumented immigrant thing because they think that sells with their base.
So when you are arguing about illegals that are receiving Medicaid benefits, 1.4 million, 1.4, they are not eligible. So they will be coming off. So people are not, well, we all are going to die. For heaven's sakes, folks. Okay.
For heaven's sakes, folks, we're all going to die. If some die earlier because we kick them off of Medicaid or we kick them off a food stamp, they die. We're all going to die. I mean,
half of children in Iowa covered by Medicaid.
This is the nihilism that we saw during COVID.
Yep.
I mean, the idea that you could have said 10 or 12 years ago, what would happen to a party that presided over, basically left us completely undefended with a pandemic, that we literally had states fighting over PPE and people having to go and bribe like deliveries of PPE, that we would have a president who would deny the existence of COVID. And then once we actually get a vaccine, a party that basically built their entire program off of vaccine denial, leading to the deaths of well over 1 million Americans, and who knows how many people with long COVID. There was a time where it's like, oh my God, that's unspeakable.
Well, we were talking about this.
I was like, you're all going to die anyways.
We were talking about the nihilism with Taylor Lorenz yesterday, and like how 2020 changed our politics forever, where there was a moment of collective action with BLM, but there was also a moment where the government said, this is a crisis, we're cutting you checks, we're putting in a rent or eviction moratorium, we cut child poverty nearly in half, and then that was yanked away. And that is also violence that the government is inflicting on people. Like, people saw what was possible and then saw that the government really didn't give a shit. Yeah. And I think that kind of nihilism is, you can't look at Donald Trump's rise without it. It's like, at least we're entertained, but we know that the government doesn't really care about us. And like, that's basically
also,
what she's saying.
Some of those measures
there
were signed by Trump when he was in office.
Right. And so he had his name on the check, but the Democrats are too above doing that kind of thing, as Obama said on the campaign trail like 6 months ago, or 8 months ago. But it's the rise of crypto, it's the rise of meme stocks, it's the rise of gambling and indebtedness for young people. It's, I'm going to get mine because I can't rely on anything, on the collective, on our government. And like Medicaid right now, you're all going to die. Who cares? Just if we could pull up this KFF thing, because it gives people a sense of how many people are on Medicaid in Iowa. Like, okay. It has 3 million people in it. 26.6% of Iowa residents have incomes below 200% of the federal poverty level, which is smaller, I guess, than the United States. But it's around, so 20% of people in Medicaid, or in Iowa, are on Medicaid. This is going to affect 20% of her population, and what she's basically, if you scroll down to the other part here, this is the better part. Yeah. So that 20% of her constituents, she's basically saying, get sick and die. Remember, that was Alan Grayson's line about what the Republican healthcare plan is. Right. It's get sick and die.
Again, it's half children, and of the adults that are on Medicaid, 77% of them are workers.
And Grayson was saying that in 2009 or 2010, and now you have a Republican just saying it out loud.
It's a death cult.
How does she think that's going to go for her in like, they're going to cut that into an ad immediately, right?
I mean, they better have that, saved as a drop.
We're all going to die. I mean, it's true, though. It's true. At least she's being honest.
She's going to die a lot more comfortable than a lot of people.
Everybody's going to die. Speaking of everybody dying because of healthcare, we should tell you that the RFK Jr., I mean, this is just stunning. We know that measles are still sort of like exploding across the country. We don't hear as much about it because, of course, the CDC is barred from issuing this and doing any type of publicity that would encourage people to get vaccinated against the
that would
measles.
Make Trump feel bad, so let's pretend it doesn't exist.
Department of Health and Human Services under Robert Kennedy canceled millions of dollars in federal funding that was awarded to Moderna to produce an mRNA vaccine against flu viruses with pandemic potential, including the H5N1 bird flu, which is currently sweeping through U.S. poultry and dairy cows. Last July, the Biden administration's HHS awarded Moderna $176 million to accelerate the development of mRNA-based pandemic influenza vaccines. The beauty of mRNA technology is that you can create sort of almost like a platform that can be modified to deal with specific variants of flu or virus, etc. And on Wednesday, the Trump administration decided to renege on the contract. This was right as Moderna reported positive results from an early trial vaccine targeting the H5 influenza viruses. In In a preliminary trial of 300 healthy adults, the vaccine candidate appeared safe and boosted antibody levels against the virus by 44.5-fold. And Kennedy canceled that contract. I imagine Moderna will figure out a way of continuing the work, but the hostility towards defending us from a potential pandemic is alarming.
Do we know that Moderna will continue that work, though?
We don't know.
Okay, yeah. My point is just like, this is why capitalism can't solve our health crises, because unless we have a government saying, like, you have to research this, they have to have a profit incentive to research something. That's the problem.
Yeah, no, there may be others at this point because they've, gone far enough down the road that they're going to be able to find other funding sources. Maybe it's other governments. I don't know. But here is Caroline Levitt talking about a MAHA report that is Make America Healthy Again, about kids, and apparently it was done by somebody's probably non-premium version of AI, where the AI decided to cite reports and studies that were fake.
Okay, but the people that cited were real. They just hadn't written what they ChatGPT said it cited.
It must have been one of those things where, like, it's scrolling through some story about the report's authors, the purported report's authors,
Yep.
when they had talked about something else or somebody else had talked about
And
it.
then makes up what they think they were talking about.
Exactly.
Thanks so much, Caroline. A notice investigation found that the Hallmark MAHA Commission report that was released last week cites studies that appear to not exist. We know that because, in part, we reached out to some of the listed authors who said that they didn't write the studies cited. So I want to ask, does the White House have confidence that the information coming from HHS can be trusted?
Yes, we have complete confidence in Secretary Kennedy and his team at HHS. I understand there were some formatting issues with the MAHA report that are being addressed, and the report will be updated, but it does not negate the substance of the report, which, as you know, is one of the most transformative health reports that has ever been released by the federal government, and is backed on good science that has never been recognized by the federal government.
And a quick follow-up, can you talk about what tools or research goes into production of these kinds of reports? For instance, is it AI that's used to put together these reports now?
I can't speak to that. I would defer you to the Department of Health and Human Services. What I know is just what I told you.
I don't want to be a pedantic, because God knows I mispronounce words and I'm sure I use words that don't exist. But you're not going to defer you. You're going to either refer you or you're going to defer to the Health and Human Services. I'm going to obstruct or basically pretend I don't know what you're saying.
Formatting?
Yeah, formatting.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, they made a report that had false citations, and it was a formatting problem.
That's like a double spaced versus a 1.5 spaced thing, not like this thing that we cite to sort of warrant the claims that we make is a figment of a computer's imagination.
Yeah, that's not great. Apparently, so Notice found that initial fake report, and the New York Times found two more, or fake citation. The New York Times found two more fake citations in it as well.
That's why I say never use citations. If you're only asking for trouble. Let's go to
The line is just unbelievable on like all these stories. Just it's the most transformative health report ever, and of course I trust it, and that's just a formatting error.
But like they all have to talk like Trump now, right? That's what she's doing there. The hyperbole. It's exhausting.
So at least Trump has charisma about it. Stephen Miller and her doing it, it's like, ugh.
It does make me slightly queasy that Notice, and credit to them for having gone and looked up the footnotes here, but doesn't it make you guys a little queasy that like other major media outlets weren't? I mean, are they going and checking footnotes of these huge government reports?
I mean, exactly. All due respect to Notice. I mean, the idea that you don't have the New York Times breaking this type of story is nuts.
Because they're using AI. 404 Media had a good piece on Chicago Sun-Times last week, I think, that talked about they had a movie preview, I think it was, or maybe it was a novel preview, and it was doing the same thing. It was citing real authors and inventing books that they had supposedly had coming out. And of course, nobody checks and like, oh, we usually don't do this with AI. Something got through the guidelines. And it's like, no, you were being cheap and they got caught.
And like, okay, so the Times talked to one of the researchers, Dr. Keyes. She noted that her research had indeed showed that rates of depression and anxiety were rising among adolescents, as the report said they were, but the faulty citation, quote, certainly makes me concerned about the evidence base that conclusions are being drawn from, she said. The report also originally cited a paper on direct-to-consumer advertising of prescription drugs published in The Lancet in 2005. A paper with that title does exist, but it was a perspective piece from the expert, not a study. It was published in a different journal 5 years earlier and was not written by the cited author.
Okay.
Another citation incorrectly referred to a paper on the link between sleep inflammation and insulin sensitivity. The citation included a co-author who did not work on the paper and omitted the researcher who did.
Anywhere.
It was
you are
also
having an
listed
emotional breakdown right now.
in the wrong journal. So, like, also, this is where they hate peer review, too, where they're like, they want anything that's published by these people to be included, where they don't go through traditional scientific processes.
First
but I
of
guess.
all, how dare you?
Yeah, I guess that's not news. Brett, this is a win for the Weinstein line of intellectualism, right? Where having no respect for your peers, but like alternative science.
It's literally what Eric said yesterday, which is that in the future, okay, none of his peers will ever recognize his genius, but an AI will sometime down the line. Like, well, the AI just gave you this now.
Okay, I'm sorry. One more thing. Experts said even some of the correctly cited papers were inaccurately summarized.
Oh, that's just formatting.
For example,
Stop the fraud! Stop the count!
Stop the count. For example, the report said the 5th edition of a guide used by psychiatrists to classify mental health conditions had loosened criteria for ADHD and bipolar disorder, but that edition was not published until 2013. I don't know. Like, they're using AI. That's the point. Yeah.
Do your own research.
Right.
Let a robot do your own research.
Right.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.